lot of people often ask me, how do you handle criticism? Because being an outspoken Christian woman and a writer, I get a lot of critical responses to my work, and sometimes it's uncharitable and unkind. A lot of times people question my faith. People question my credentials all the time. Who are you to speak on this when you don't have a PhD in Old Testament theology or whatever it may be? And what I tell people is, well, my mantra is thick skin, tender heart. And I got this from my husband, Dan. I'd had a pretty rough day on the internet. Some people had said some really, it just crossed the line from a friendly sort of theological debate into just some deep and personal criticisms of me as a person and my character and that sort of thing. And it really just hurt me that day. And I'll never forget, I sat next to Dan, my husband, on the couch, and I folded up my arms and I said, you know what? If I'm gonna make it in this boys club of an industry, I'm gonna have to harden up. I'm gonna have to become tough. I gotta grow thick skin. I can't let anything get to me. And I was kind of doing this like self-talk thing.
Tide.
Yeah, roll tide. But I'll never forget, Dan turned to me and he said, Rachel, I'm so proud of you. You're such a strong woman, and you're right. You gotta grow thick skin. But he said, whatever you do, please don't ever lose your sweet, tender heart. He said, because that's part of what makes you Rachel, and that's one of the reasons I love you so much. And of course, then I was just like, blubbering, tears streaming down my face. But because of that conversation, that's the posture I've tried to cultivate. And that's the attitude. I gotta grow thick skin. I have to be strong. But I wanna keep my tender heart, because if I close off the part of myself that can be hurt in an effort to protect myself, if in an effort to protect myself from criticism, I close off that part of myself, I'm also closing off and hardening the part that can feel compassion, that can be moved, that can be changed, that feels empathy. And I'm not willing to sacrifice that just to protect myself. I don't think as followers of Jesus, we have the option to have closed hearts and cold hearts. I want to have a tender heart. I want to be able to be moved by things. So that means sometimes I have to let the criticism hurt. I have to let it sting. I have to let it get to me. Not every time, but sometimes. Because I'm not willing to shut down that part of myself. And in that sense, criticism can be really instructive, actually, because I ask myself, why is this criticism hurting me so much? Is it because it's true and it's a constructive criticism? Is it because it's a lie I like to believe about myself and that I have a habit of believing about myself? So if we are yielded in that way to criticism, even the unfair ones, we can learn a lot about ourselves through that. So thick skin, tender heart. That's what kind of gets me through all the hate. Also, sometimes I print up my hate mail and turn it into origami because it's like kind of a swords and the plowshares type of thing for me. And it's a reminder that God can take even the ugliest things and make them beautiful. So I've got all this hate mail where people call me names and call me a bitch and all that stuff. And I've folded it into little sailboats, little paper cranes. It's just a reminder that God is in the resurrection business. And if we want in on God's business, we got to be prepared to face and confront the ugly stuff and then see it reborn, see it made into something beautiful. So yeah, that's how I kind of deal with the criticism.
breaks your heart apart, and what breaks it open?
I think for me personally, what breaks it open is being in the presence of great beauty and of people who, in the face of almost unbearable odds against them, don't react with violence, but hold a ground of dignity. You know, what breaks my heart open is just witnesses like many years ago that the Amish families who found their children were mercilessly gunned down at school, and rather than going to blame and recrimination, they stand not disguising or repressing, but allowing that heart to be broken wide open without resorting to bitterness.
Isn't that weakness? That's not
No, that's what I call Eucharistic love. Because the heart that's broken open without resorting to bitterness is the heart of God reaching out to the world. And it's a sacred communion. So that's what touches me. And I guess you'd say that what breaks it apart is what then breaks it open. To watch the suffering, the number of lives that seem to end feeling like they're boxed in every direction, that the system is against you, and it is. To see the wanton violence, to see the crushing out of hope in people by situations that are simply done by cruelty and carelessness. So that wonderful possibility that it exists in each one of us to be a transparent mirror of the divine will to take form, that gets crushed. And you watch it get covered over with a hard edge. And it seems to happen to all of us in some ways as part of putting on the armor that we have to get through life. But that would mean that the break in the heart open is what goes in the opposite direction of that, where with the danger still raging out there, we take the armor off, knowing that something will hold us, and whether we live or die, we are the Lord's. Nothing can fall out of God, nothing.